Janelle has really made it difficult for me to feel like I'm married to her anymore. It's just, she's just constantly gone. I don't think we can reconcile.
I didn't think these kinds of things had an expiration date, but it appears that our relationship might have had an expiration date. She was a separate entity from us, and Kody ended up being over there. I think Cody's very happy to be Robin's husband. I know I don't want him to come back.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you are having a wonderful day. It's Thursday, December 12th, 2024. There's always this heaviness with me whenever I'm watching this Sister Wives show and having to report on this family because obviously 2024 was a horrible year for the family with the loss of Garrison Brown. And the loss is felt a lot by viewers because he used to be very present on the show and we've only seen glimpses of him. There's been no scenes with him. He's almost been like erased from this show and I still don't know how they're going to address it. I'm not sure what the storyline is going to be or if they'll address it at all. Other reality TV shows on TLC have dealt with losses of family members and they're almost always covered, not ignored. And in this case, with his death involving him taking his own life, it's even more complicated because of the faith that they come from in the Apostolic United Brethren with their belief. And I understand a lot of them have still walked away from this, but some of them in the family still believe this. But a death this way would be considered akin to someone taking someone else's life. It's a complicated place with guilt and lots of shame, and sometimes people feeling like they can't talk about it. They have to just brush it under the rug. You know, one thing I will say is that I speak to people from this church every day and from this world and everything that happens in this world. And this kind of death is so common because of how hard it is to leave, the trauma that people experience while inside, and all of the baggage and the lack of education around mental health care, therapy, and just how much kids get, especially boys, pushed out by their fathers. Boys, more than anyone in this group, are the most at risk, and particularly young men, of their lives ending this way. And it's a complicated place for Janelle and Kody because they're estranged and they don't have a relationship. And because of that estrangement, they've had to, Janelle's had to largely manage this all on her own. Of course, she has the support of her children. Of course, she has the support of Christine, but she used to be able to rely on Kody, and now she can't. She couldn't rely on him on the day that Garrison passed away to show up. She didn't even send him over there to see if he was okay. And when she talked to the police, she told them that Garrison had an estranged relationship with his father. We knew that Garrison and the settlement of his estate was going to be complicated because he had just purchased a townhouse. We also knew there could be a possibility of a fight over money. And there was questions about his possible life insurance that he would have had through the National Guard. Garrison passed away as a member of the Nevada National Guard, and he had served for years. So Janelle had a lot that she needed to do. And in the middle of that, she had a show to film and she herself had moved. So, one thing that you're seeing, and we'll see in the next few weeks, is that prior to Garrison passing away, she left Flagstaff and moved. And she made the decision to move to North Carolina to be with Madison. Madison and Janelle and Caleb closed on a piece of property that they've named Tata Farms. And it's in North Carolina. It's raw land that needs a lot of work. And they closed on that only a few weeks after Garrison passed away. It's obvious that the deal was already in process before he passed away. So it's not like she moved and then decided, I'm going to buy this lot because he's gone. It was only 3 weeks later. Now that she has this property in North Carolina. She doesn't have any ties to Flagstaff other than tying up loose ends. One of those loose ends has to do with his townhouse. Garrison purchased the townhouse in 2021. And when he purchased the townhouse, this was a great achievement for him. In the last season, one of his most, I think the scene most fans will remember is when he had everyone over at his house. They had dinner, and all of the kids that were there, Garrison, Gwendolyn, Savannah, and Gabriel, spoke about their estranged relationship with their dad and the issues they had with Robin, and really just the struggle they had with reconnecting with their siblings, missing the children that Kody and Robin had together and their adopted siblings, and just feeling like they have to give up because Kody won't take accountability. And probably one of the saddest things that Garrison said all last season is, fine, have him, Robin. We don't need him. We're all grown up and don't need a father anymore. So that led to Kody saying horrible things about Garrison, calling him a jerk, saying he didn't want to talk to his kids anymore. If there was ever a season that would have destroyed Kody's relationships with the kids that were Janelle's, it would have been season 18. So now that he's gone, Janelle has moved, and there's a house that's been sitting on the market for months. So one of the most unfortunate parts of when a loved one passes away is having to deal with probate and their estate. Or because Garrison purchased this house in 2021, he had a mortgage on it, and there was a lot that he had been doing to the home at the time. Like, he was in the process of renovating part of the kitchen. And so the house was sort of left not in the best state because he hadn't finished. And so there was like loose ends they had to fix up with the kitchen, and they had to get rid of tenants because he was leasing the house out to 3 other people, while he lived there himself. He had 3 cats that had to get rehomed, and then they had to get the house cleaned and ready for the market. When they first placed the house on the market, it was for $450,000, but we have just gotten word that they have gotten an offer on the house and it is now pending. The last price that it went down to before they got the offer was 389,900. Now, that's not to say that that's what they got. I have no idea what the price is that they got for this, but it's going to be selling. So it sat on the market for over 90 days before it got a offer. So Janelle will be able to sell this house, this townhouse, and get that offloaded. This has been something that has not only been probably hard for her to deal with because she's now lives in North Carolina, emotionally hard because it's where her son died, but then financially, they've had to pay his mortgage every single month as they've been preparing for sale, and the taxes. So his mortgage on the house was like 321,000 when he bought it in 2021. It's not likely that there's a ton of equity in the house if they sold it at 389. So she's not going to be walking away with a lot of money, but she will be able to pay off the mortgage, and then whatever is left over, I'm sure she'll be able to use for whatever else is left. I mean, debt, or she can use it herself. But this is good news for her because ultimately this is one of the last ties she has to Flagstaff. And she was able to sell this because obviously it doesn't have anyone else's name on it but his, so she doesn't have to worry about dealing with Kody. It's highly unlikely that Kody was involved in this process simply because Kody and Garrison had no relationship, and I just can't see him at all being interested in helping on this. He was estranged from Garrison, and he remains estranged from all of his children of Janelle's. So once this sells, she'll be only tied to Flagstaff via Coyote Pass. And currently, Coyote Pass is not for sale. So Kody is not trying to sell anything. They still haven't decided if they're going to sell. And according to Mary, there will be no resolution to Coyote Pass this season. They purchased Coyote Pass in 2018. They have annual taxes they have to pay, but other than that, it's paid off free and clear. Once the house that Garrison's house is sold, it takes a financial burden off of her that I'm sure has not been easy. It allows her to move on, and hopefully it will allow the new owners to create a new space and memories for themselves. It's probably going to be bittersweet for her when it does close because it's like the final piece of him. It's been hard because McKelty said that a lot of the interviews on this most recent season, I don't know if you've paid attention, but a lot of times there's like they're in the same clothes, but their hair is different. And you can tell that time has elapsed. Like Mary's interviews, she now looks thinner, like she's lost a lot of weight. She actually said she lost the weight because she's got a dog and walking him all the time. But because of that, like time has elapsed. And so these interviews were done. But McKelty said a lot of their interviews that they did that are like the ones that are elapsed, where it's like you can tell time it's more current, those were filmed like not long after Garrison died. So there was an episode with McKelty where she was very tearful and crying about her relationship with Robin. And she actually said it actually had nothing to do with Robin. It was because she was super emotional and he had just died. And so she was crying about Robin, but that's not really why she was crying. And I think about that often when I'm thinking and I'm watching the way that they're talking and their mannerisms and if they seem more down. And Janelle has definitely seemed like her role this year hasn't been huge. She hasn't had a really big storyline of her own. Maybe there will be now that she's going to move and buy the Tata Farms thing, but it's mostly been Christine that's been this season. So I don't know if at some point this season it's going to be transitioning more over to Janelle. But I think what frustrates me is that so she sells Garrison, which is Garrison's place, which is amazing. She'll be able to move on from that. But then because Kody is dragging his feet and will not sell Coyote Pass, he's almost forcing her to have to interact with him still. And it just feels like so abusive that he won't sell this property and he's forcing them to like stay on this lot with him when they don't want to be and he won't buy them out and they still haven't been bought out. They're all still on the titles. It just seems like Kody could do a lot of things right now to improve his relationships with people, right? He could actually like be a good ex-partner and be considerate to her and allow her to move on. And I honestly think like if Kody really cared about Janelle and he cared about the mother of his children, he would let her go and he would buy her out. And instead of buying a new property where he had $400,000 to spend and he won't buy anyone else out on Coyote Pass, instead of using it to buy a new place, he could have just bought them out, given them the money so that they could move on. But again, in his selfishness, he didn't do that. And now Janelle still has ties to Flagstaff. It makes me so angry when I think about it. But at some point that will get resolved. But for now, at least Janelle will be able to close this chapter. And we still haven't seen any clips yet of how the death is going to be covered. We know it's going to be covered because it was in the synopsis that the network gave to the press. They said that his death would be covered, but not a single scene yet has shown what has transpired. I don't know if they're like holding that so they don't have to traumatize the family because it's still so raw, but it's about to get really emotional in the next month or so on Sister Wives. So I'm glad that I can give you this tiny bit of happiness for Janelle. I hope that Kody stops being a jerk, buys her out, or lets her move on. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Have you ever had to go through probate? Have you ever had a situation like this? Do you come from the AUB and have you had to deal with suicide and what that's like in the family and how that impacts everyone? And are you happy that Janelle will be able to like close one chapter and at least have this part of her life, like have this tied up for her so she can move on? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Bye everyone.